Henry, I want you to take a special train today. Just as long as you don't crash this time. Okay. Henry's baffling amount of unfortunate instances aside, I wanted to talk about a certain very popular story that many fans have praised and placed on a pedestal over the years as a testament to Thomas as a whole. And I intend to piss all over that sentiment and write over the pedestal a magic marker. Now, I most certainly do not make this video out of malice for the episode and those who enjoy it. I shall say it's a solid episode that trumps almost anything that came out of the hit era. But I feel as if the flowers it has been given are rather excessive, and intend to proverbially dress down this episode and figure out why it has been praised so much, and detail my own issues with it. Before we continue, I would like to give my own flowers to the inspiration of this video, that being a video by Fluffy Waffles about the most underrated James episode, whose channel is linked below. Let us first summarise and dissect the episode. It starts off with Henry and his crew getting ready to pull the Flying Kipper, with his driver commenting that he might be able to pull the Express if they do it well. There's a quick and grand explanation of what the Flying Kipper is, and it starts up. There's a cute scene between some engine crew and the brake van, and then the crash. Henry sent crew, and bada bing bada boo, he's got his new shape. Now, there is stuff to love here, both technically and I suppose narratively. I'd be hung if I didn't mention the atmosphere, which I can agree is pretty impressive and a joy to the eye. Not only does it help get the scope with the sweeping shots of the docks, but it also experiments with this very beautiful early morning sky and lighting, only compounded by these very ethereal wide shots of Henry puffing across the landscape. Of course, there's the crash, the first of which to be fully shown on screen, and I appreciate how seriously it takes itself, with the realism of the scenario, the suspense of human lives being put at stake, and the overall reserved nature of the crash itself. Even in Season 3 and beyond, we were getting crashes and accidents that sort of ruin the immersion of the realism of Sodor as a functioning railway. Once again, very impressive for a Season 1 episode. And, of course, there's the previously mentioned Coco scene. No further words needed, 10 out of 10 moment, and I wish we got more scenes like this. But there's also a nice touch of respite for Henry, an engine whom has always been the cause of his own problems, whether mechanically or sheerly through pure spite at the world around him. So to see him finally get a moment where something is entirely not his fault, and simply due to the forces that be so, is very narratively satisfying and almost sweet. Plus, his getting of a new shape feels very much like the world apologising for Henry for the handicap it had given him at creation. Overall, 10 out of 10 episode. Is what I would say. Now, I'm not here to debate the prototypical definition of an episode being overrated. I admit this is still a solid episode, 7 out of 10, but I don't think it's the magnum opus people have collectively agreed it is. For starters, it's incredibly bare bones and misuses its plot points heavily. The crash is literally the entire episode, which I'm not exactly opposed to. Other episodes have centered around the crash before, but there's literally nothing else going on. There's nothing special about it, and the consequences that occur, Henry getting a new shape, are completely unrelated to the story told beforehand. It is so incredibly obvious that this was nothing more than a status quo reset with no narrative weight behind it, and the quickness of which Henry returns with a new shape demeans the overarching narrative Season 1 is known for. Had Henry returned in a later episode with a new shape, it would have felt more earned and appropriate to the manner in which the story was being told in. Let's return back to the start of the episode. This comment about the Express is completely random and holds no weight to the story told afterwards. It's literally just filler to remind you that the engines are still entitled pricks who only care about a role if it has a reputation. I applaud Trampy for his masterful incorporation of this idea into the story. Instead of using it as a one-off line, it follows through under the surface and holds a lot more significance in the decision-making of Henry. It is unfortunate, though, when dealing with stories aimed at children, that the characters will at times act like planks of wood. Take Henry in this story. The only aspect of his personality/journey in this episode is his innocence concerning the crash. Aside from that, you could put anyone in this place and the episode would work the same, probably even better if a character like Gordon or James were used. Which brings me on to my next point. The story feels entirely undeserved. Just an episode ago, we had come to a perfect conclusion for Henry, and yet this episode for some reason resets that after barely any experience with the Welsh coal. Henry getting a new shape was entirely pointless, and I'll be honest, makes his story beforehand seem so unneeded when all he had to do was crash and zip all his problems away. You know what? Never mind. I'm not going to be distracted by the cool, technical aspects and the fact that it was the first to do a crash like everyone else. This episode feels so drastically in terms of narrative and relation to the overall story that I, in sheer honesty, can't give it anything above a 5. Phew, might have got a bit ahead of myself there. I have more problems, but those are more personal than anything, so I shan't drag this out any longer. Overall, the Flying Kipper has managed to wow the fandom with its visuals for decades, but once you peel back that sugary coating, you'll find an episode with nothing to offer except an easy fill for a top 10 episodes of Thomas slot by the ill-informed. You want a good Henry episode with neat visuals? Watch Henry's Forest. This has been Crow, and this is episode 1 of the deconstruction of the classic era and its overrated episodes. Sorry if it's a short one.